How long more do you expect the fellow to wait without a toilet in his house? How long more do you expect women to be cooking with firewood? These are the kind of things on which there cannot be any more waiting.
तो अभी घर घर में अब लोग सोचते हैं कि इंजीनियर डॉक्टर के अलावा you can become a startup.
I'll take this liberty to say, can I have more women in this room? For every, let's say, 3 ideas that you put across, tell me also 1 idea to say how to bring more women to be in the startup ecosystem. Constantly working is not me. Constantly working is the PM. And I'm sure no one will have a disagreement on that. Problem of women not finding equal space to operate is not an Indian problem. It seems to be a global matter. But Indians, like the way we break many things, like the way we set examples on many things, can set example even in this.
As the government, what are some of the things on your agenda to further technology and to bring this kind of inclusivity which we can't see anywhere in the world? And what are some of the things that you would say to all of us as Indians that we should keep our eyes on?
Government is committed to ensure that the digital framework and technology-based solutions, as much as comes from the government, will be a public good. It will be available for everybody to use. Regulators are constantly talking to each other, and we from the ministry also engage with the regulators to make sure that options through sandbox trials are given so that every innovative solution or would-be solution can be tested. So there is no way in which people are going to wonder, how do I now make it applicable in such a way that regulators wouldn't have a problem? So the constant keeping ahead of the curve by the regulators is something on which I'm placing a lot of emphasis, because it shouldn't be that the solutions are coming from the startups, but the regulators are spending time understanding it. It has to happen simultaneously. It has to happen rapidly. So the commitment to engage with technology and solutions which have to be IoT or intelligence-based or machine learning-based will all have to happen. So that dedication and policy stability which we like to offer are there. It will continue to be there. And that, I think, will make a big difference for the startups.
When you, at your place, and where we are and where we have continued to grow and stay in the last 2 years, when you have to take the decision between welfare and budgetary discipline, when you have to take a very inclusive decision, at the same time ensure that we are prudent and frugal, how do you go about taking those decisions? Is there any thumb rule that you follow?
Not really. Yes, there is an element of balancing that you have to do. But if you're talking about fundamental necessities which have to reach every Indian, and particularly those who have been denied it for a very long time, consciously or unconsciously denied, they cannot be any more waiting. On that, I think I'm very grateful that the Prime Minister very clearly gives you that, his peace of mind in saying, how long more do you expect the fellow to wait without a toilet in his house? How long more do you expect women to be cooking with firewood? These are the kind of things on which there cannot be any more waiting. So it's not just a question of balancing resources. It's also balancing that principle. Do you want India to wait for fundamentals? Yeah. Do you want any Indian to wait for even the basics? But equally, do you want Indians to think that every rupee paid as a tax doesn't get him anything in return because people don't value that 1 rupee. So it's a balance between these two. The value for a taxpayer's money. Use it productively so that everything can have a multiplier. Sooner you achieve the goals that you want to. That's the balance that we try to do, not because I have only 1,000 rupees, I can't give houses. No, that's not the kind of balance.
Prime Minister this year during the Independence Day, he called out that startups are the nation builders and they will go to define the destiny of the country. And since 2014, he was the first one to go and say, Startup India. तो अभी घर घर में अब लोग सोचते हैं कि इंजीनियर डॉक्टर के अलावा you can become a startup is an option. What would you like to tell all the startups, and particularly what are the kind of startups that you would like us to build?
Now you'll have to also be clear on how you want your path laid for the next 20, 25 years. What are the areas in which you have to move? Although, since you've asked, I'll take this liberty to say, can I have more women in this room? That's the kind of support, I want startups to do well, chalk their course, take it forward, tell us new things for the government to take as a matter of policy decision. But for every, let's say, 3 ideas that you put across, tell me also 1 idea to say how to bring more women to be in the startup ecosystem.
How do you spend your day? We talk to successful entrepreneurs, investors, and ask them, how do you go about your day? And whatever I saw of last 2 years, I just saw you constantly working.
Constantly working is not me. Constantly working is the PM. And I'm sure no one will have a disagreement on that. I do give myself some time for myself in the sense of to listen to some music, read some book, or talk to people who can be, motivational to me, who I respect, with whom I share some kind of bond. So I do all that.
Can we just ask what is that percentage of music and everything else that you do?
That's probably not the same every day. It depends on the day, it depends on the intensity of work. But travel is something which I'd never, in the sense, flying is something which I never enjoyed because it's so drab, it takes a lot of time. A routine that you have to do about, go into an airport, check in. All that used to be something which I've never enjoyed. I loved train travels because it's a lot easier on you. The demands are a lot less. You can stretch your feet, you can put up your whatever light and read. And the pace at which it goes also gives you a view through the window of the changing contours of India and all that. So train has been a very soothing experience, but I don't do much of it. So for the drab experience of flying, the big advantage is I have a good store of music, and I do plug my ear with the buds and listen to the music. And that's how I think I energize myself through the flight and get out to do meaningful things.
For us, for all of us in the country, and for hopefully all of us will go back and think that how do we actually not have this conversation, but look and listen to your words that we have more women in the room. It is very, very encouraging that you are here and talking to us.
But 1 minute there. I don't want anyone to have a misunderstanding that probably it's India and it is only in India this happens. Just incidentally, I didn't come here to say this, but because the audience is a captive audience and I can get away by speaking things. US Treasury Secretary. She is somebody who's had the leadership role in 3 different top institutions of the US. The Fed, she headed it. Before that, the Council of Economic Advisors, she headed it. And now she heads the ministry, meaning the Treasury. I got to know that her biography was released very recently in the US. Just managed to get a copy. There are 2 actually simultaneously released. And I only have managed to read some pages of both the books, and that is reading page after page. There are also some pages which I browsed. clearly the problem of women not finding equal space to operate is not an Indian problem. In that biography, I could find excerpts of various different, whether it is university or working in the government or any other space, several observations which do say women don't get that space. So let's not get discouraged by the fact that I've said it and think that, oh, it is only in India. Not at all. It seems to be a global matter.
Yeah.
But Indians, like the way we break many things, like the way we set examples on many things, can set example even in this.
And ma'am, on behalf of everyone, I would say that you are an example to us, not just to the women, but to all of us, because you are so forthright, so candid, and so amazingly taking us. We all take pride in the number that we can say that we are the 5th largest economy in the world. And when everywhere there is crisis, we've managed to stay true and we are growing. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you so much.